What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my final Big Ten week preview and predictions of the season. Yes, I said final. I am not going to be doing Champions Week because this is where the announcement comes in. I am going to be switching back to doing all 130 teams. Not really. I am going to be doing conference championship games next week, so you can look forward to that. This is going to be the last week that I focus on solely Big Ten. So then on Sunday, you're going to get my week review for the Big Ten and my power rankings after week 8. Those are going to be like my final official Big Ten power rankings. So you could look forward to that. And then from then on, I'm going to be uploading just more than usual because there's a lot more to talk about with playoff, my predictions, playoff scenarios, conference championship games, all good stuff like that. So you can look forward to that next week. But today is my last Big Ten preview predictions of the season. And it's weird because we are already in the last season, or excuse me, the last week of the regular season in the Big Ten and in college football in general. It is just really, really weird. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let's see how my predictions fared last week with 2 games getting canceled last week. I went 3-2, so not horribly great, but also not awful. I was above 500 for the week. It put my overall record at 26-15. Now I'm only going to have 5 games left to boost that record as high as possible. We'll get into those 5 games in a second, but first we got to mention 2 games that were canceled. The Michigan Wolverines practiced on Monday, but practice was abruptly canceled on Tuesday, and they have decided that playing Ohio State is not in their players and staff best interest. So the Michigan Wolverines and Ohio State Buckeyes, the game will not be played for the first time since 1917. As an Ohio State fan, I already made a video on this. It was uploaded earlier today, I believe around 12:30 Central Standard Time. So if you want to, please go check that video out. I talk about this and the Big Ten rule change, which allowed Ohio State to get into the Big Ten championship game. I am wearing my Beat Michigan shirt for this video. I just thought it would be fun. I wore it in that video too as well. But anyway, this is the first time since 1917 that these 2 teams are not playing the game. It's a very important game in the college football world. It's a huge game. Everyone tunes in. It was going to be at noon on Fox, the big noon kickoff, like it usually is. However, just due to COVID and all this weirdness, the game will not be played this year, but that means Ohio State, welcome to the Big Ten Championship, and welcome to Indianapolis. Another great Big Ten rivalry will not be played this week as the Indiana Hoosiers and Purdue Boilermakers decided to cancel their games as both squads are dealing with an increased number of positive COVID tests. So I believe this is the first time since 1919 that these 2 teams will not be playing for the old owned bucket. So the state of Indiana is going to miss out on their biggest college football rivalry. This was probably going to be a pretty interesting game. I will tell you, I would have picked Indiana. By the way, I would have picked Ohio State to beat Michigan, but I would have picked Indiana in this game. Purdue's coming off 3 tough losses. It was going to be in their best interest to get back playing on the football field, but now they just have to look forward and see if either of these teams can play in Champions Week. Again, I am not going to be covering it, but if you are a fan of one of these teams, your regular season is over for Indiana. It was a nice run for Purdue. You had some disappointing losses, but you hope to play a week from Saturday. Now into the games that are actually happening. We have the 14th ranked Northwestern Wildcats facing off against the Illinois Fighting Illini. Now Northwestern has already clinched a spot in the Big Ten championship game. They are moving on to Indianapolis to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. Will they be upset again, or will they be able to regain momentum before the Big Ten championship game? This one is at noon o'clock Eastern Standard Time on ESPN2. Northwestern is favored by 14 points, and for good reason. The one thing that I will talk about next week with conference championship predictions as well, and possibly on Sunday, depending on how this game goes, is Northwestern's offense needs to find its groove. They're going to have to find its groove if they want to beat Ohio State. Now, in this game, I don't know if necessarily they're going to need to find the groove. Illinois' defense is not that great, but it could be an offensive game. I know the over and under is 40.5 points, but that's just because Illinois is not expected to beat Northwestern. But if the game becomes close, expect Northwestern's offense to have to step up and make a couple plays. But I see Northwestern's defense being easily able to shut down this Illinois Fighting Illini offense. I think Northwestern is going to be able to beat Illinois pretty handedly here and gain some momentum going into the Big Ten championship game. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights and the Maryland Terrapins are going to see the field as the Big Ten will not reshuffle the schedule to appease Ohio State playing a sixth game. They've already eliminated the rule. This game will be played as scheduled, and it is scheduled for noon Eastern Time on the Big Ten Network. In my opinion, this is a pretty interesting game. Now, Maryland has had lots of games canceled in the past week. They haven't been on the football field since the Indiana game. And it's hard to know how good this Maryland team is because they were just starting to look okay. They beat Penn State, but Penn State hasn't looked all that good. They lost by quite a bit to Indiana. Indiana looks really good. So it's hard to figure out this Maryland team, and then they get blown out by Northwestern. It seems like when they play bad teams, they win, good teams, they lose. Now, Rutgers over here is not that bad of a football team. I believe that they are a more talented team than their record shows. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think both offenses are going to come out with something to prove. In the end, this game doesn't necessarily matter, except Rutgers maybe if they can win this game and win next week. They might be considered for bowl eligibility. This one is going to be an interesting game, and I feel like it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. I know it's been Maryland. Maryland's going to win, and that's all it's been in years past. I'm going to pick the upset. I believe that the Rutgers Scarlet Knights are going to come forward and win this game. I think it's an important game for the Rutgers program. I think it's an important game for Greg Schiano, and I think it's an important game in just terms of the morality. After losing last week, then being able to beat Purdue the week prior, Rutgers has had quite an off and on season. They've been close in some games. They've played better in some games. I just have a feeling that Rutgers is going to come out and upset Maryland here. I just solely believe that it is going to happen. And I honestly can't wait to watch this game. It'll be interesting to see how Maryland handles not playing for a little bit. But for Rutgers, I predict them to get the upset win. I really like this Rutgers team. I do think they pull off the road upset. Minnesota Golden Gophers and the Nebraska Cornhuskers are playing off this week. Now, the West could have a lot of shakings in the standings. And for Minnesota, first time getting on the field since canceling 2 games. This one is also at noon Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Nebraska is the 10.5-point favorite. And I think rightfully so, the 10.5-point favorite in the preseason. Did not look like Nebraska was going to have much of a shot at Minnesota. Minnesota was still expected to be pretty good, but now Minnesota has had Rashad Bateman opt out of the remainder of the season. You got a guy like Tanner Morgan, who isn't playing as well as he did last season, while Mohamed Ibrahim has been absolutely amazing. I don't know that that's going to be able to make up for what this Minnesota defense lacks, and that's just a defense in general. Minnesota gives up way too many points. The wins that they do have are against some not very quality teams. It's a little bit of a tricky situation for Minnesota. Now, Nebraska has played, in my opinion, what are their best 2 games of the season at Iowa and at Purdue. Playing Iowa and playing Purdue. Those have just been their best 2 games, period, end of story. You can look at the Penn State win. I think that Iowa game might be their best game played, and they lost. 10.5 points is probably about right. I do think Nebraska is going to win this game. I just think, again, Minnesota's defense has not been able to dig their cleats in the turf and really be able to get going, and I don't see that happening in this game either. It's too late in the season to make any sort of huge changes. You never really know with the year in COVID, but they've also had a lot of time off. I don't know when the last time they practiced was either. I just think it's going to be a really rocky game for Minnesota. And I think Nebraska is going to be able to come away with the win here. Going into Champions Week, they're building momentum for whoever they may play out of the Big Ten East. Speaking of the Big Ten East, the Michigan State Spartans and the Penn State Nittany Lions are going to face off this week, as they do every year in the last game of the season. Now, it's not like a rivalry or anything. It's just who they happen to play. Penn State is the 14.5-point favorite, as they are coming off 2 straight wins after opening the season 0-5. And for Michigan State, after getting embarrassed by Ohio State, you look to turn things around in this game before Champions Week. This game is also at noon Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Now, the time and channel of this game have kind of switched, so I wouldn't be surprised if it switched back to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, which is what it originally was before Indiana and Ohio State ended up canceling their games. But besides that, the way it's scheduled right now, noon Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Michigan State, again, just coming off an embarrassing loss to Ohio State. They were put out, embarrassed, only scored 12 points. And again, the offense turned over the football. A huge part, or I shouldn't say a huge part, but a good part of why they lost that game. And as for Penn State, they're building momentum. Coming off wins against Michigan and coming off wins against Rutgers, Penn State is building momentum. And they have looked more and more like the Penn State team. Now, it's nowhere near what we expected Penn State to look like, but it's getting better. It is getting better. I think Penn State go ahead and wins their 3rd game in a row. The thing about Penn State is their first 5 games when they lost, all Penn State fans and college football fans looked at those last 3 games and said, hey, these are winnable for Penn State. Penn State has 3 winnable games left on their schedule. And I did not predict Penn State to beat Michigan. I did predict Penn State to beat Rutgers, and I am going to predict them to beat Michigan State. So maybe I can go 2-3 here for Penn State in the final 3 weeks. Again, just Penn State playing more and more like the team that we expected them to be. Again, I don't think they're going to get close to the team that we expected them to be, but Michigan State with a team that turns the ball over a lot, I just think Penn State's defense is going to be able to capitalize on that, and their offense is playing better than what it was. I think they're going to be able to turn those into points. Penn State going to win this game. The Wisconsin Badgers fell out of this week's college football playoff top 25 after, again, another loss to Indiana. That is their 2nd straight loss after losing to Northwestern and now losing to Indiana. Their offense has not been existent in any of those past games. However, for the Iowa Hawkeyes, after starting 0-2, they have won 5 straight and find themselves ranked 16th in the latest poll. This is your Big Ten game of the week. It's going to decide who becomes 2nd place in the West, who will more than likely face the Indiana Hoosiers, who will end up facing the Indiana Hoosiers, will the winner of this game. Now, both these teams already lost to Northwestern, so there's no way for them to get into the Big Ten championship game. This game is going to be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox Sports 1. And I was very surprised to find out that Wisconsin is actually the 2-point favorite in this game. I looked at a lot of different betting sites. There's just a website called Sportsline where you can look at 5 different lines, and pretty much all of them had Wisconsin favored by 2 points or 1.5 points, which I was really surprised about because Wisconsin has not had an offense the past couple games. It's been hard for them to get anything going. And while their defense is playing pretty well, this Iowa offense also has a defense that's playing well. I don't know that Wisconsin's offense is going to be able to get better in the past couple games, or in this game against Iowa. In the past couple games, Graham Mertz has also not played very well. Wisconsin just has not been able to play their game. Meanwhile, the Iowa Hawkeyes have played the game they've wanted to play all year, which is shut them out on defense, then score on offense. And Iowa's done that to perfection in their past 3 or 4 games, winning all of those by a pretty substantial margin. Now, Iowa had a little bit of trouble with Illinois last week. However, I don't feel like they're going to have any trouble with I don't feel like they're going to have as much trouble this week. I think this Wisconsin team is declining, and while I think this Wisconsin team is very talented, I don't know that Wisconsin is going to be able to match up against the Iowa Hawkeyes. I like the Hawkeyes in this one, so technically pulling off the upset, but they are at home. This is the Wisconsin team that has not looked great, especially on offense in the past couple games. And for the Iowa Hawkeyes, you get a big win here, move to 6-2 on the season, and into the into the 2nd place of the Big Ten West. I think this is going to be a huge win for Iowa. And for Wisconsin, you're going to have to wait and see who you play in Champions Week. It's probably going to end up being Excuse me, it's probably going to end up being Maryland. That could be an interesting game to watch, but Wisconsin, in order for them to win this game, they need to get their offense going. And the way I see it, Iowa's defense is too good. I think they're going to shut down Wisconsin, and Iowa going to be your second-place team in the Big Ten West. And they will win the Big Ten Game of the Week. That is going to do it for my Big Ten Week 8 preview and predictions, and it was my last Big Ten preview and predictions video of the regular season. If you did not catch that at the beginning, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel or just enjoy my content. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. So you can join Tailgate Nation. Also leave a comment down below. Tell me your guys' thoughts on this video and on this week in general. Also, please share this video with everyone you know. I'm trying to grow the channel as big as possible. It would mean a lot. If you could share the video with everyone I know, who likes college football, Big Ten football, as much as you and me. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys on Sunday with my final Big Ten power rankings and my Week 8 review. Goodbye.